Welcome to the 152nd episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. Welcome, and thanks for listening. I'd like to start off by reminding you that March 24th is the date of our third annual Charlotte County Plant-Based Nutrition Conference. Dr. Doug Lisle from True North Health will be joining us as a speaker to talk about his book, The Pleasure Trap. Timaree Hagenburger will be talking about the mind-nutrition connection, and Addie Majnaric will be speaking about getting all your nutrients, and I will be speaking about a variety of things, including the gut microbes and how it relates to our health, especially heart health. So I hope you'll join us. There'll be a plant-based breakfast and lunch, so you don't have to worry about choosing or worrying about if there's going to be sugar, oil, or salt there, because it won't be. It's at the beautiful Twin Isles Country Club in Punta Gorda, Florida. So it'll be a sunny day for all of you up north that are fighting the cold weather, so come and join us. You can spend the weekend and the day before, visit us for consultations. I'll be doing consultations as well as Addie and Timaree. So you can get your tickets online. You can actually go to the website, drdulaney.com, DOCTORDULANEY, and click on the link to get your tickets. But it'll be a great day, a lot of time for questions and answers. There'll be a cooking demonstration. You'll be around all kinds of positive people to pitch ideas with and get your questions answered and get support from. So everybody leaves the conference feeling good. So, I'd love to see you and love to have you join us. I'll be in North Carolina in a few weeks at the Biltmore doing the Biltmore Challenge, the half marathon on Saturday and a whole marathon on Sunday. So if anybody's running that race and would like to say hello, drop me an email at jami@drdulaney.com. I've been running every day trying to get ready for this race and then our ultra in April out of Mendocino, California. And I have I've been thinking about it a little bit. Some days I run longer, then some days I run shorter. Some days I run easy, some days I run harder. I'm a proponent of that kind of an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time it's lower heart rate running, and 20% of the time then I'll kick it up. But when people talk about how many days a week should they exercise, I think you should exercise every day. It's good to get your heart rate up. We weren't meant to sit in a chair and be sedentary. So, if you're feeling poorly, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but I think it's important to keep that exercise routine and do something. If the weather's horrible where you are, do body weight exercises inside, even walking around or with a step up and down or up and down your steps. But I think it's important to keep moving every day. And that's kind of what we have our members do, is to, do something every day, to keep moving. And by all means, stretch. I'm paying a lot of attention to that, whether it's specific stretching or yoga or Pilates. But I am a firm believer in making sure that you're maintaining your flexibility, and that helps you to not get injured. From an outside standpoint, down here in sunny Florida, my tower garden is going wild. We have tomatoes of all kinds draping, and they're starting to turn red, so it's exciting. We have new cucumber plants growing because the other ones got frozen. We've got lettuce and kale and some eggplant growing on that tower garden. So I keep putting these Tinker Toy type extensions up to hold the tomato vines up because we've outgrown the tower garden so much. So that's always exciting. And, and one of the reasons why we did the tower garden was we were having so much trouble with raised beds, with things eating our plants and them not surviving. And so we collected all this compost and we just threw it in the raised beds. And now we have this mystery garden growing. So we have cucumbers and tomato plants that are doing great now that we weren't paying attention to them in the raised beds. So that's exciting. We also have white potatoes that have come up. So it's kind of fun to see what's going to happen with this. I guess it's supercharged compost dirt. So maybe the microbes of my garden are such that these things will be able to last in the raised beds as well. I have this giant parsley plant, so we're doing a lot of parsley flavored things, tabbouleh and falafel with parsley and parsley potatoes. So that's a lot of fun too. And finally, I have basil and cilantro growing at the same time. Usually I can get one growing and then the other one won't grow. So we have all that growing. So we're it's kind of a nice time of the year. We had this cold snap where, I know nobody really feels sorry for us, but we had a couple days near freezing temperature, and a lot of my trees lost all their leaves. And it's amazing to see these little buds now coming out of even the side of the trunk of the mango trees, and they're starting to regenerate. So I have a couple of sticks that are starting to get, new buds coming out the side. So that's makes me feel a lot better about, it was really kind of sad when these beautiful trees lost their leaves. So everything's coming back. It may and probably will hamper any fruit production this year, but I'm just glad not to have lost the trees, and so that next year hopefully they'll be stronger, and we'll go from there. This was a week off from nutrition class. We had all the graduations from level 1, level 2, and level 3 last week, and who needs a week off? We decided to have an open house to show the community our new teaching kitchen. And so we had an open house last night, and to show off the new kitchen and to talk a little bit about what we do here in my practice, because obviously it's different from any traditional primary care or cardiology practice in that we teach nutrition. And we teach nutrition as a way to get people off of their medications. And so we have the full kitchen with a stove top and an oven, and all the appliances of home. So it makes it great to be able to cook here. An Instant Pot, which is one of my favorite gadgets at home. So we got a big one for the office. And for the open house, we made carrot potato ginger soup. And I did my sushi salad, and if you haven't heard of a sushi salad, it's basically vegan sushi in a bowl. So we chopped up red cabbage and green cabbage, had spinach, cucumbers, carrots, pickled ginger, nori wrap cut up, avocado, and a little bit of light soy sauce on top of that as a dressing. And it's just like eating sushi without having to pick up the roll. So people could try that. We had little sesame seeds on top of there as well. And then we had healthy chocolate cake topped with strawberries instead of an icing. The cake recipe came from Joel Furman's book. And that cake has zucchini and pineapple and carrots and dates and raisins and beets inside as sweeteners. If I didn't say pineapple and banana, it's also in there, and applesauce. And people are amazed. So we made little bites and little cups for people to sample. And we had about 45 or 50 people come through and was very interested to see what we were doing. One person came because his neighbor had done so well with our practice. He didn't think that she would ever get her diabetes under control. And rumor has it that she would take her insulin and go to Dunkin' Donuts. And he didn't think that she would ever change the way she's eating, and she's doing fabulous. And she's actually has her insulin down from 85 units a day to 6 units a day in just at about a month, just by changing the way she eats. Now, if she were to go to Dunkin' Donuts, her sugars were going to go right up to 300s because her diabetes, or the muscle, the fat in the muscle cell is still there. It's blocking things, but she's decreased the fat in her diet substantially, so that her sugars are well controlled with minimal amounts of extra insulin. So she'll continue to improve as her weight comes down. She's starting to exercise. Her neuropathy's feeling better. So it's really exciting. She's, it's people like her are showcases for this way to practice medicine through nutrition. I'm not any different than I was as a primary care doctor or a cardiologist several years ago. I still believe in medications if people need medications, but the majority of people don't need medications if they're willing to work with us and change their diet. And there's certainly no reason to have diabetes. All of the diabetic medications are so full of side effects, so many complications with them. highs and low sugar, increased appetite, vascular complications. There's no reason to fool with those. And it's such a shame for endocrinologists not to make strong plant-based dietary nutrition education the forefront of the treatment of diabetes. Because if they treated all of their patients like this, then there wouldn't be the temptation for people to do things other ways. But we're doing it here, and we're starting out with our success stories, and they can go out and be a showcase for what can be done with plant-based nutrition and diabetes, and it's very rewarding, especially having a strong family history of diabetes, to know that you can avoid getting diabetes. So, I just want to scream that message out, that you do not have to live with diabetes. It can be reversed. Sometimes it's a little bit more stubborn than others. It takes a little bit longer, but everybody can reduce their medication and get their sugars under control. And, even type 1 diabetics, they can't get off insulin, but they can decrease the insulin requirements, and they can certainly decrease their vascular complications by eating this very heart-healthy, anti-inflammatory way of plant-based eating. So that was, that's real exciting. And we'll talk a little bit more about things that happen in that open house a little bit later. I just wanted to kind of cover what's happening. Tomorrow we're going to a Healthy Kids Day at our Port Charlotte Beach Complex, and we're going to have a tent there. And we're going to do a nut milk tasting, because I think there's probably the number one thing to get kids off of is cow's milk and cheese, with all the estrogen in it and all the side effects of all these growth hormones. So we need to get kids off of it. And I think by doing a little blindfold taste tests, we can figure out which milks the kids like. Their parents will be there, and they can go buy the nut milk that the kids would like. And by making it a game and a happy experience, I think that we'll make great progress. And but when you're out there buying nut milks, you got to be careful. I was at Walmart and looking for some different kinds of nut milk. I'm pretty much I use almond milk, unsweetened. The 30-calorie variety at Cascadia Farms is what I typically buy from my local health food store. But I was out buying a variety of different companies to have the kids taste, and I had to be careful because we picked up a rice milk. And it actually had canola oil in it, and as well as cane sugar. And certainly we don't want to go from unhealthy cow's milk to unhealthy nut milk or unhealthy plant milk. So, be careful. It's no better buying, milk, that doesn't have the estrogens and the growth hormones in it, but certainly we don't want kids exposed to canola oil and a bunch of chemicals and sugar. So, be careful when you're buying milks and products out there. Just because something is plant-based or vegan or vegetarian does not mean it's healthy by any stretch of the imagination. And you actually have to read the label, and you have to look for oils, and you have to look for carrageenan, and you don't want that in there either, because it's, associated with some cancer stimulation. So, unfortunately, you got to read the label on everything these days, because companies, they try to do shortcuts. They want to drag this stuff out and make as much with as little product as they can. And apparently the chemicals are cheaper than the nuts and the rice. So you have to really watch out. The other thing that we're going to do is name the vegetable, because we want kids to be able to name vegetables. I have adults in my nutrition class that can't name vegetables. So we're going to bring a chart and going to have some different vegetables for people to taste and name. We're also going to have homemade hummus without oil and vegetables for the kids to try, because that's a good healthy snack for kids to take for lunch and to have after school. Making boats with red cabbage and hummus is a great way to get kids to eat vegetables and put a variety of vegetables in there. You can make faces and all kinds of things. So, I would encourage you to try some of these things, and hopefully we'll get parents involved and interested in doing some of these snacks. I think it's important, if kids are around vegetables, either growing them, picking them, harvesting them, see how they grow, how they're planted. they're much more likely to want to eat them than if they've never seen them and they're just this green thing on their plate. So, if you can do a little garden when the springtime comes in the north or down here in the south, it's great. Even just an herb garden to have your kids experience it, because we're also going to do an herb tasting. So we're going to have little cups of basil and cilantro and oregano and parsley for the kids to try. So that they know what the flavors are like. Because we have a lot of, again, adults in our nutrition class that don't know how to use herbs in cooking because they've never been exposed to them. A lot of people just have salt and pepper as their spices that they use. And so it's like, I don't like anything spicy, or I don't like anything like this. And it's because they've really never had them or had the combination. So we try to expose the people in our nutrition class to them, and we're going to try to expose the kids and their parents that come to our tent tomorrow. We're also going to have some healthy snacks. We're going to do Joel Furman's cake since we have some of it left, and with the strawberries on top. So, it's another good way to get vegetables into children by making this cake with beets and zucchini and carrots and pineapple. All of a sudden these kids have eaten these things. And if you would make this recipe with kids, again, they get to experience it. And I tell you, this batter for this cake is so good that, you could, and obviously you can eat this batter raw. There's no eggs in it. So, they could eat a cup of raw batter and they're eating raw vegetables, again, the carrots, the zucchini and all that kind of stuff. And it's really yummy and sweet. So it's a good way to get kids to eat vegetables because they'll like it this way. And once they just get a little bit of that taste, and perhaps their microbes change just a little bit and their taste buds just change, then it won't be such a foreign thing when they see the whole vegetable on their plate because it's not so scary anymore. The other thing we're making are oat balls, which are basically oatmeal and some dates and raisin and banana and coconut for them to try that way. And those are really healthy, easy treats to make and to take into lunches. And again, it's basically oatmeal with fruit. So, what's not to like there? And you notice I haven't said sugar in any of this stuff. So these are really healthy snacks. And kids, they start to get the taste for the fruits and the vegetables, not for just sugar and oil and salt. And I think it's really, really important. And, I think it's really important to let kids help shop. Not dictate what is purchased, because I think when it comes to the cereal aisle, the marketers are there for them, but to help purchase the vegetable, pick out the best carrots, the best peppers, look to see, they need to learn, what's a good cucumber, look for the bad spots on the peppers before you pick it up, look at the tomatoes. I think it's important for kids to be able to do this. As I was a kid, we had a little grocery store down the street, and I'd take the list on Saturday and go down and pick up what we needed. And I think it's really important. It's a good life skill for kids to learn. That way, when they go out on their own, they can actually feed themselves. So they go to college, they're not relying on junk food continuously. And I think that, again, prepping, having the kids help with food prep is really, really good. Not only does it give them time to participate, so you're going to want to eat something you've made, and they taste along the way. I used to love it when my grandmother was cutting up vegetables. She let me have some as we were going, and a little raw potato, a little raw sweet potato, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes. It's fun to eat the vegetables as you're preparing it. And again, you're just increasing those taste buds as you go along. And, while you're there preparing food together, you can also have a conversation. So it's so much better than a kid being off watching TV or on the computer and you're alone cooking. It's a lot more fun together. So that will be our suggestion tomorrow. And it's my suggestion today. And I hope that, you can enjoy time with your kids. We don't get very much time with them, when they go off to school and we're off to work. Other people have them to influence them, but when they're home, it's our chance to get to raise our children and influence them and help them to develop their taste buds. So I think that's a really good thing to do. The other thing that happened in the office before we get back to the open house was a patient expressing difficulty traveling. Going on vacation should be something that you look forward to, not something that you dread because you're not sure how you're going to feed yourself. Sometimes on vacation we've laughed that we can't find food, even though we're in this big city, because more so because there's more choices than we know what to do with. But sometimes if you're looking for a specific thing, you can't find it and it's closed, and you get disappointed, and or you can't get a reservation. But sometimes when people are traveling and they're plant-based, it's all about what are they going to be able to eat and what are they going to be exposed to, and just how much do you give up and say, well, I'm on vacation, I'm just going to eat whatever I can? Are you going to hold fast? What are going to be your guidelines? And I think it depends on how comfortable you are when you're home eating 100% plant-based with no added oil. Because if you're really strong in your convictions at home and you're very dedicated to eating that way, you really don't often want to deviate from it because it causes you to feel poorly. And if you deviate at home, it's going to be a lot easier to deviate when you go traveling, because you do have to have some thought about where you're going to eat, whether you're driving and taking vegetables or you're flying and finding airport food. So, it depends on where you, kind of draw the line in the sand and say, okay, I'm going to stick with this way regardless. I've heard people say that they haven't eaten all day long because they've been traveling and they couldn't find food because they wanted to be so strict. On the other hand, most of the time, I think that's, there could have been a compromise, that you could have found something, whether it's fruit or, even a bagel or oatmeal. And there's always oatmeal around as far as breakfast type foods. Finding a baked potato, finding some rice and steamed vegetables. So, there's usually something around in airports that you can get a hold of. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you don't have a lot of time, and that's when you have to maybe pack, some food to take with you, at least on one part of the leg or one leg of the trip until you get to where you're going. But what happens if you're going someplace and you're the only person that's plant-based and you're in a large group of people that's not plant-based? How do you get along there? It can be fairly difficult. I've been on one or two trips like that. My compromises, there have been some compromises that I wouldn't have necessarily made. I've been to an In-N-Out burger and got just the bun and the lettuce and the tomato. So there are ways to get to where you're going. If you're out of food and you are hungry, there's ways around it. But I think sometimes you have to have the conversation with, and be comfortable enough to have the conversation with the people that you're staying, that you'd like to pay for the food, that, to get some vegetables in so that you can have your food. If you're in a situation where you're being abused by your food choices, and made fun of continuously, it can be somewhat uncomfortable. And I guess, I had this conversation with someone today, and if you don't have any support from anybody else, it can be a little bit lonely. And my suggestion was to kind of journal what was there and what's available, so you can get a clear idea of what your choices might be. And there may be more than you think there will be, and you just have to be open to looking for them and more aware. If you feel defeated before you ever start, then you're more likely to say, oh heck, and just go off the reservation and eat what you want. So I think by journaling, and then even journaling what your selection was, and maybe it wasn't perfect the first day, but maybe it got better the second day, I think it can be a learning experience, because you can see what it makes you more aware of what's there, and it makes you more aware of what your choices were, and it gives you an idea what it could be in the future. And if you're going to be someplace for 4 or 5 days, then they're going to have to go shopping. So you can't be, without a car or in a place where you don't have any input. So I would certainly make sure I was along on the shopping trip and pay for my own food that I wanted to eat and offer to make a dish that was, that everybody might want to eat. But if they didn't, then I would be very happy eating a very simple dish. And even if it came down to, making sure you had some potatoes to put on the grill or a portobello mushroom to put on the grill if everybody else is grilling out. Obviously some grilled vegetables you could throw, and share with everybody. So I think there are ways around it. It's just becoming aware and not giving up before you ever start. And realizing that if it didn't start out well doesn't mean that it can't end well with what you're doing. And if somebody's being abusive, then there's really not much you can do as far as I wouldn't engage somebody that's continuously harassing me to a point. If someone was just, picking at me for a while, I would probably counter with some pretty specific education after a period of time. I'm from West Virginia, and I don't know how many. There's not very many listeners out there from West Virginia, and if you are, please email me and say hi, because I feel really sad that not very many people in West Virginia listen to this podcast. But it's certainly not the plant-based mecca by any stretch of the imagination, but I do manage to eat plant-based when I go back to West Virginia. But I have also been the brunt of a lot of West Virginia jokes when I travel to Pennsylvania or New York. People ask me where I'm from, and they'll say Virginia, and I say, no, it's West Virginia, and they'll say Virginia, and I'll say, no, it's West Virginia. Of course, the one leg shorter than the other, and the teeth thing. And, for the record, I have all of my teeth, including my wisdom teeth, and I'm a lifelong West Virginian until I moved, but not because of my dentition. After a while, I would take that ribbing and then I would kind of give it back to people. It's like, I'm no different from, and my people are no different from your people. And I would really, tell them just what a great state I was from and good things about the people around me. I usually get people to back off. And I'm kind of the same way with plant-based nutrition. I'll take the ribbing for a while. The jokes for a while, but, then I actually will come back, and, one of my favorites is, the Kentucky Derby's coming up. I guess the horses can't run because their legs are all breaking because of osteoporosis, and they're too weak from lack of protein because they don't eat any meat. I don't see any cows falling over in the fields because they have osteoporosis or lack of protein. Gorillas seem, pretty strong and they're living on plants. Deers run pretty fast living on plants. So, you can go on. And of course, where do cows get their calcium from? The ground, the grass. Where do all these animals get their protein? The only thing that can fix nitrogen are plants. So we get everything from plants. They're just employing the middleman for a little bit of fat and cholesterol to make them sick and ill. And of course, everybody always comes back and says, Uncle George or Uncle whoever lived to be 97, or both my parents lived to be 100, and they never had anything wrong with them. And there are outliers out there. There are people that eat well and die young from car accidents. So there's statistics on every end, but the majority of people aren't living as well or as well as they could be if they were plant-based. And I also always counter that the omnivore existence of people that are 90-year-old presently is not the omnivore existence of today. Those people grew up eating a small portion of meat and a large portion of vegetables without oil on everything, and certainly without cheese dripped on everything and the salt on everything. So they did the majority of their life eating a much more healthy omnivore diet than what we eat today. So, I wouldn't, I would say good luck to you, but with all the chemicals that you're consuming, whether it's in the food or in the container or in the plastic wrap that's being microwaved and all the salt that's toxifying your vessels, good luck, because it's not your grandmother's food anymore. So that's kind of when I get my back against the wall, that kind of let it rip every once in a while. And, you can stop people, and then agree to be disagree. My mother did a great thing the other night. There was a little bit of a political discussion. And she saw the other person getting a little heated, and she just reached out her hand and shook hands and said, we can all agree to disagree on certain things. We don't all have to be alike. That's for sure. I'd like us all to be plant-based, but we're not always going to be all to the same degree. But that doesn't mean we can't be friends and family. So, putting your hand out to shake, to call a truce before it gets too heated is always a good way to go, because I think there's probably not much to discuss out there. Politics, religion, and then food is probably the very close third to getting people fired up. Because nobody wants to hear anything bad about their habits. So that's kind of my suggestion for doing that. And then accountability of yourself for journaling like that. You know how you handled it. And, maybe one trip you're not handling it too well, but the next trip you kind of can be ready to go and you can be prepared for what's going to happen. So that's what I, would suggest. And, if you're one of my members and you get in the situation, shoot me an email, because if you're a member of my practice, you have my phone number and my email, and I'm ready to support you in any kind of a situation you get in when it comes to your nutrition and your health, because helping you, attain your optimal health and wellness is why I'm here, and I am your biggest ally. If you're a member of this practice, to help you do well and to eat well, because I want everybody to obtain their optimal health and wellness. So I'm all about being in your corner. So it's another reason to join our practice, because Addie and I will be in your corner from the get-go whenever you need us. So we'll be, your broccoli and cauliflower and the capes in the corner. We'll come to your rescue and help you out if we can. And it's kind of circling back to the open house, people, open house, and then the discussions on, wow, so-and-so is doing so good. I wish I could, but I can't. And a gentleman the other day, he was in here and we were talking about it. He's like, yeah, I know that plant-based nutrition is, I know it's good for you. I have no doubt about it. It's good. I know. If I heard I know one time, I heard I know 20 or 30 times in the conversation when I had the gentleman. Meanwhile, I'm looking at him and he doesn't look healthy, and he agrees he's not healthy, and he's on a whole host of medications. And he keeps saying, I know, but I can't. I don't think I can. And, that's a really quick and easy way out of trying it. I think that, the I know means you don't have to listen while you're saying I know, and you've shut your ears off. And if you know and you're not doing it, then why? Because I can't is really not an option when it comes to eating better. It's I've chosen not to at this point, but I still have the option to choose tomorrow, or the next meal. So, again, I think that if we just had the opportunity to hear what we were saying and look in the mirror as we were saying it, because I know on the other hand, they would also say, I want to be healthy. I want to be healthy. I know this works. But they're afraid they're going to have to give up something. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to give up taste. And somebody, said, I'm willing to eat stuff even if it doesn't taste good. And it's like, well, I'm not that willing to eat something if it doesn't taste good. I happen to think that, I really enjoy preparing my food and eating good food. And I look forward to every meal. And I look forward to making it the healthiest, most nutritious meal that is pleasant to look at that I possibly can. So I don't dread any meals, and I look forward to it. And I even look forward to the challenge of finding things in places where, if I had to be out. It doesn't always work out, but again, there's always another meal. But this can't is a mindset. And I talked about it a little bit in a blog post that I did this week. We kind of lose before we get started sometimes. I talked about my basketball teams. I'm a diehard Mountaineer fan, and over the years, oh my goodness, we've come so close and then lost. And I just this is the year, and if you get on Twitter, you find people saying this is the year, and we all get excited. And then oftentimes something happens, and I really do think that they try so hard, but there's just this, oh my goodness, we're going to fail in the back of their mind. Here lately with the basketball team, the last couple of minutes, they just fall apart. And it's a mindset. There's nothing to do with their ability. They have some of the best players in the country, but for some reason they just get to that, pushing it so, or in that little negative thought or something comes into their head. And I truly believe it's mindset. And sometimes you'll watch a team and they'll get angry, and the other team, gets in their head early on. It's mindset. They go, they've lost because they're not focused. Because the difference in these athletic abilities it's all about mindset. And then, of course, I'm a huge fan of the Olympics, and I was watching the women's relay cross country race this I guess it was Wednesday. The best thing I've seen on the Olympics in years. These two young girls were competing, and they were underdogs for the United States. We haven't won a medal in, 35, 40 years. And certainly the women haven't won a cross-country ski medal. And these two girls, they had the look of determination and fight, and there was no telling them that they weren't going to be able to do this. There was just no stopping them. And if you could bottle up that determination and give a little bit of that to everybody, it would be so great. I mean, it was so great to see these girls compete. And I think you need to, and I drew on that. It made me want to go back. I used to cross-country ski when I lived in West Virginia, but I was ready to go do it, And I think, even the Paralympics are coming on next. If you have a chance to watch, these people have always been told, no, they can't. They've been told they can't. They've been told, don't try, and yet they do. And it's crazy to think about the difference in the mindset. When we say we can't, we just roll over. But when somebody else says we can't, it's game on. So, maybe you should have somebody else. Sometimes I wonder in the practice, I like to say, I don't think you can do this, but I'm afraid they'll just say, I'm afraid I'll reinforce what they're thinking. And I don't necessarily go, I don't want to go there, and I want to be positive, but with your own mindset, take that little chip and put it on your shoulder. It's like, yes, I can. Yes, I can do this. I can do it for lunch, and I can do it for dinner. And, and some of our patients were challenging. It's like, okay, let's make today's glucose better than yesterday's glucose. The only thing you're fighting is that, I do good for breakfast and I do good for lunch, but then I fall off the wagon at dinner time. It's like, all right, game on. Let's see what you can do. Let's see those numbers 3 hours after you eat dinner. You have a goal. You have a game you're going to play because you're going to beat the number from the day before. You're going to set that goal. We don't, same thing with weight. There's no reason to set that weight goal. I got to lose 50 pounds. No, you want to set that. I want to see a weight change by the week. I want to see that 1 pound, that 2 pound. Or I'm going to find the calories. I'm going to jot down in my journal every day, where are those 20 or 30 calories that I could have eaten, but I'm choosing not to eat because I want my weight to come down? Where can I make my nutrition a little bit healthier? So take the challenge and do a game on challenge. Because I think if you can make a game out of it, make it fun, you can turn that, I can't, I'm just going to roll over and not try, into, okay, I'm really taking a step forward here, and I'm going to put a mark in the sand, and I'm going to go from here to here. It's just about getting up over the one hill. If you watch the cross-country race, they went up a hill and down and up a hill and down. It's just to get to the top, and then, get to that top of that hill, and then, then push to the next session. And that's the other thing I talked about in the blog post. When I'm running, if I'm thinking about my run, if I think about it as, I have to run 6 miles, or I have to run 15 miles, or whatever I have to, sometimes I really don't want to. But when I get out running and I just think about, well, I'm going to run from this street to the next street, and then I'll have this much in, or I already have a mile in. So now I have, 5 times 1 more mile. I only have this block to this block. Some blocks, things seem like you're going downhill. I live in Florida. It's really not downhill or uphill anywhere, but sometimes it seems like you're running downhill. Sometimes the wind is at your back and you feel it, and you get a spurt of fresh air. Sometimes my dogs pick up the pace, and it's fun to run with them. Sometimes there'll be a dog barking at it, and we'll try to get past them a little quicker, and pick up the space. Next thing you know, that you're doing something, you're picking up the pace, or you're counting down the miles or counting down the distance, and without it being painful. Sometimes my feet hurt, but I start thinking of something else. The next thing you know, I'm on a different block. So it's just changing your mindset just a little to get you through something and break it into smaller pieces as opposed to look at the big giant piece. So it's not saying, well, I'm just going to be partly today, because that's too much of an out, I really think, to give yourself, I'm going to do just a little bit today. I think, well, I'm going to do this much, and then set your goal for the next day a little bit better than the next day. So that's my thought for this week. And, I'm hoping that gives you a little bit of help. If you want our help, again, drdulaney.com. You can email me at jami@drdulaney.com. It's jami@drdulaney.com to find out more about the practice. But look on the website and see what we have to offer, because we have an online program that Addie, my registered dietitian, will speak with you monthly and help you get your meals in order and assess the situation. And you have access to all our online content, as well as videos from our new kitchen when we do the cooking demos. We have a private Facebook group. Our online level 2 program gets you a call from me and Addie every month, so we can help you get your game plan and get you off those medications and help titrate them down. It's not all just about weight loss. There are all these programs about weight loss. It's not about weight loss. It's about becoming healthy. It's about optimizing your health and your nutrition. And that takes a full approach, so we're kind of equipped to do that. Addie's degree in exercise physiology, minors in strength and conditioning. She's a registered plant-based dietitian. I'm a cardiologist in primary care. I'm an endurance athlete. So we've got it covered as far as helping you move, and helping you get your nutrition under control, so that we can optimize your health and wellness and get you off of some of those medications. And then, of course, our full membership, you can speak to us anytime you want. And you have access to our access to my cell phone, and we'll talk to you anytime. And so we'd love to help you achieve your optimal health and wellness. So check out our website. I'm on Instagram at Jamila Dulaney, and Facebook as well. You can like our Facebook page. That would be cool. There's links to my blog post there. Go on the website and see the blog post. So I'd love to hear from you if you have some interest or questions. And I'll let you know how Kids Day goes. And don't forget, I'd love to see you at our conference, March 24th, at Punta Gorda, Twin Oz Country Club. So get your tickets. You can go directly to Eventbrite, but better yet, go to our webpage and then click on the link to Eventbrite to get your tickets for the day, and get your consult tickets if you want, and get your yoga tickets if you want. It'd be a great weekend. So I look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you for listening as always.